NBA Tip-Off Thursday edition, Thursday, September 24th, and we are live as we are every Monday through Friday when there's an NBA playoff game going forward, live 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, right here on WagerTalk TV. And we will be back tomorrow on Friday live at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, because we have, of course, another game between the Celtics and Heat, Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals. We're going to give a brief recap of it here at the top of the show. And then, of course, we're going to dig in deep to the more important topic for Thursday night, and that's Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals coming up this evening between the Lakers and Nuggets. First, so let's bring in the usual suspects. I've got Tony Finn here from WagerTalk.com. I've got Teddy Cervansky, Teddy Covers as well. I'm going to give them each a close-up. They deserve a close-up today on Thursday. It's a big day for Teddy. He goes from start to finish all night long. And then we got Rob Vino, of course. By the way, Rob is $11 Rob today, $11 special at WagerTalk.com. We'll get more into that in a moment. And then, of course, Ski Profit, also WagerTalk.com. The ladies' man, the WNBA specialist here on the panel. Tony, let me start with you. Just give me a recap of Wednesday and just your thoughts, I guess, in general. We're going to dig in deep tomorrow, of course, for Game 5, but just your general thoughts, your takeaway from Game 4 last night, Heat and Celtics.
Well, I think we learned a lot last night. If you didn't believe some of us that speak highly of the Miami head coach, ARP, but I think he showed that he knows how to make adjustments. He saw what Brad Stevens had done the game before in Game 3, and in truth, what happened last night was counterintuitive. You call it what you want to, but Gordon still got his. And Smart seemed to be in foul trouble and off kilter all game. What we learned is throw some of Miami, fool us once. I doubt you're going to fool them twice.
Yeah, and once again coming into the game, we talked about that layoff, the rest factor. Teddy, did you see an edge for one team or the other last night? How did you think that game played out overall?
It played out great for me. At least the first half did. All I was worried about was the first half of that game. I like Miami to come out strong. I found a couple of quotes prior to tip-off talking about how the Heat have been coming out of these deficits, and they weren't planning on that happening last night. And they actually took their largest lead of the series in the second quarter of that game when they led by 8. I was impressed with how Miami, and again, Tyler Hero was out of his mind last night. But we've talked about the number of different options that the Heat have, and even if Duncan Robinson's not hitting, and even if Kelly Olynyk doesn't even get in the game, note how both coaches shortened their benches last night. Only 8 players in the rotation for Boston, only 7 for Miami. But even with those exceptional performance from Hero, it still came down to who can better execute during crunch time. And Miami's won that battle this series, and they won it again last night.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the youngsters, we got the 20-year-old Bam. He put up, 20 points. Hero, as you referenced, said he put up 37. Ski, I mean, this is a Miami Heat team that could be really good for a lot of years going forward.
Definitely. They have a nice culture. They have, a nice coach. Pat Riley, I'm not sure his position. I can't think he's the general manager, but yeah, they have a good franchise. So I like what Miami Heat is doing or are doing. And yesterday was disappointing for me. I've been pretty good in this series, but I took a loss yesterday with the Celtics. But I'll pat myself on the back because the Hero props, all of them cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say the points was nowhere close. What was his over-under for points? Do you guys remember?
14.5.
That's at 38.
37, yeah, so it was pretty close. Rob, what were your takeaways on this? Obviously, the Heat up 3-1. They're in the driver's seat, to say the least now.
Well, my biggest takeaway was yesterday when we got on the show, and Teddy used the phrase, I specifically played the first half. And knowing that I had specifically played the first half, I thought that SOB saw the same quote I did. Because Jimmy Butler is the guy who said it, and as soon as I saw it, I played it. It was all I could do not to give it away on the show yesterday. But, sick and tired of playing from behind. And when Jimmy Butler says that, I tweeted last night that when Jimmy Butler talks, you could cash some tickets. And he talked. I listened. Teddy listened. And, we got there with that. But aside from that, guys, you have to admire the way Miami hung on to that thing, right? Boston ran at them all the way down to the waning seconds. I think we're staring at 107, 104 with less than 20 seconds left. They kept coming. But Butler hit some key free throws. They got some key inbounds passes where sometimes teams don't, and they were able to hold them off. To Jason Tatum, 0 points in the first half, and then the explosion in the second half. I mean, you have guys at halftime on that national broadcast, and even in the first half, talking about, oh, Jason Tatum looks like he's hurt. Oh, he looks like he's hurt. He's got no points. He's not moving the same way. Well, unless he's Alexis Arguello in the 14th round in that, or Aaron Pryor in the 14th round of that Alexis Arguello fight where he went to that tricky water bottle and came out like a house of fire. He was just fine. He just had a bad first half, admitted that type of first half is unacceptable, and we'll see if he straightens it out next time. But again, they're so evenly matched, guys. There's not much that separates these two teams. To your point, I think it was Teddy's about shortening a bench or Tony's. No Derek Jones Jr. last night. No Kendrick Nunn last night. No Kelly Olynyk last night. None of those guys played. So, Tony talked about Coach Spoelstra making adjustments. There's your adjustments. I'm going to go shorter. Tyler Hero was terrific, beyond words for a 20-year-old kid. Terrific.
Yeah, and just advanced look, of course, we'll dig into this more tomorrow on Friday, but Celtics, once again, a 3.5-point favorite for Game 5. Same line that we saw last night, the biggest of the series, 213. Adjusted series price now, Miami 1-4. Celtics a little bit better than 3-1. So that's the biggest price we've seen now in that series, obviously, with the 3-1 lead. One other thing I want to say, Teddy, I'll get your thoughts on this as well, is we did talk about shortening the bench. Haywood played almost 29.5 minutes. Nobody else played 13 on the bench. But here's what I take away from me, guys. Miami's the three-point shooting team. Boston took more threes and hit a higher percentage last night. If you had told me that was going to happen, I would have really liked the Celtics, and the Heat still found a way to win outright as an underdog. Teddy, I would say that bodes somewhat well for them going forward.
Yeah, that's the really scary thing for Boston here. It's not only they have to win 3 games in a row to get out of this series, but last night Miami was able to win despite they make 8 3-pointers in the game, the fewest that they've had in any playoff game so far this season. So Miami wasn't even hitting from 3, and they still won the game. The thing I wanted to point out is the Bam Adebayo injury, which is definitely affecting this line. Adebayo, the latest that I saw, he got hurt obviously in the second half of yesterday's game. It's a wrist injury. The initial reports were that it might be serious. Today I'm seeing that they're not quite as worried about it, but we still don't know if he's going to go tomorrow. I think the questions about Adebayo are influencing this Game 5 line. And if he ends up being upgraded to probable, let's say, we'll see some Miami money as a result. If he gets downgraded to doubtful, I think we'll see some Boston money as a result. The Adebayo injury is definitely impactful to this point spread and what we're going to see between now and tip-off tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, the rising superstar from Kentucky, what is he, only 20, I think, still? He had 20 points, played almost 41 minutes last night. So he obviously is a key player now. People are starting to realize that. He is definitely worth something in the line. So we'll see what happens with the injury report tomorrow and Friday when we're doing the show live. 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific Friday. It's more of a reason to turn in tomorrow. Game 5 deep analysis of the Eastern Conference Finals. We're going to turn now to the Western Conference Finals, though, guys, because we want to spend some time on the Lakers-Nuggets series. First, let's go around the horn, find out what you guys have at Wager Talk for Thursday. I'll start with you, Tony. What you got going on for Thursday night? We got college football, pro football, Major League Baseball, NBA playoffs. The only September in history where all those are available on the same day.
I have plenty for tonight. I just don't have it posted yet. The reason I don't is I wanted to be careful on a couple things. I had a couple of baseball that I really like, but I wanted to see the lineups because of the time of the year we're in. And I do have a position on tonight's game, the Lakers and Nuggets. I just haven't posted. Everything will be posted within 30 minutes at the conclusion of this show. Last night was a good night. I cashed the over in that game, that Miami game, and maybe later in the show we can talk about the fact that what Teddy just said, and that was that he thinks that maybe the Bam injury is affecting this number. That total is open almost 4 or 5 points higher than it did last game. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about that and hear what he has to say, what all of you have to say, because I don't understand it. I really don't, but I seem to learn something from you guys every time we do the show.
Yeah, and Teddy,
it's an aberration, by the way.
You can give us your thoughts on the total there with Bam's injury and also what you got going Thursday night.
So, and you talk about Bam being good.
Yeah.
Bam has been Jimmy Butler's going to get the credit, and Hero's getting the headlines. You look at the stats for the series, Bam is either first or second in Miami in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals.
That's all.
Yeah, he's an all-star, and he's working his way into superstar. But he's doing it quietly. Tonight, the total, and of course the total last night. If you had the under, that was pretty brutal.
Yes, it was.
That was really brutal. We have 26 points scored the last 2.5 minutes of that game. And if Tatum doesn't hit the three, remember, Tatum had that same three in game one, and he bricked it. Yeah. Maybe it was a foot further back, but it was, if Tatum doesn't hit that three, the game stays under, I think. So. But with 18 seconds left, he hits the three, and that means you foul again, and that means the game gets to go over. Perhaps the reason the total's higher for game 5 is, number one, we've seen over money consistently. Yeah. And number two, we've seen overs cash consistently. And number three, maybe the markets expect a tighter couple of final minutes at that 26 scramble points in the last 2.5 minutes. It was not an aberration and could easily be something we see once again if the game is close in game 5 down the stretch. Tonight at SportsMemo and WagerTalk.com, I have no action on this basketball game. I have no action in college football. I do, however, have a play in the NFL for this evening. So if you're looking for Dolphins, Jaguars information, you can get that right now at either SportsMemo or WagerTalk.com.
And that's right, Teddy's at SportsMemo.com and WagerTalk.com. We all have free plays posted occasionally. I try to put one up every day. A lot of other cappers have free plays as well at those sites. Ski, WNBA playoffs resume tonight. You got anything there? And what else you got going for Thursday?
I'm still looking at WNBA tonight. I only have a play up, a best bet in the NFL for the weekend. I haven't yet decided on my plays for basketball, but I will have something.
Nice. And once again, we go to Rob Vino, who, of course, is our featured handicapper at Wager Talk today. $11 Rob, $11 Thursday, WagerTalk.com. And the pressure's on, Rob. Actually, you don't have to win. We found that out last week, right? You just have to not lose. It wasn't your game. I believe your Thursday nighter was canceled, correct? It wasn't even really a tie. It was canceled. So we got the eternal question answered if you remain, and you do. And you're still the Thursday $11 specialist here at Wager Talk.
Bet the three-way.
The push
I
line.
am, and the play goes Saturday, so we'll cross our fingers that that college football game stays up on the board. For tonight, both football action for me, NFL and CFB, as well as I'll be involved in this NBA game tonight, as with Tony and as with Ski. It is not posted yet. We're going to talk a little bit about this game, but I'll be involved. I just want to say real quick, because Tony said that he wanted to get into a little discussion about the Miami-Boston total next game because he learns something from the panel every time we're on. I would reply by saying all of us, Tony, learn something new from you every time we're on this show. So it goes both ways.
You just can't use it. You learn something new, but it's not good.
No, you can use it, Tony. You can use it. It's applicable in real life, believe me.
I learn a lot of things not to do on a daily basis from Tony.
Good, Pascal. I got hints for that.
I also learned what word trigger words not to say here on this show. SDQL. It's a Pee-wee's Playhouse word of the day. It's the sports database queried language, correct? We can say it that way. We just can't use the abbreviation. But, Rob, speaking of totals, though, before I let you go here, 241% return on investment the last year, I think, in all sports. And you're the number one totals handicap all time, all sports combined at WagerTalk.com. So I just want to let people out there know there's some real value when Rob's got a best bet going for $11. But also, it's a good time to bring up the 60-day special because, once again, Rob Vino, the all-time leader in totals, money won at Wager Talk, over 2.5 times return on your bankroll the last year or so in all sports. And he's not the only one. Ski Profit, long-term winner. Teddy, Tony, myself, long-term winners as well. Great time to make an investment for the next 2 months. Not only does it save you several $100s, but it makes you take a serious commitment. So you're not hopping around on a daily basis and trying to find the hot hand. That's not the way to do this. You lock in on somebody, use their plays, their suggestions, their money management. You do it consistently every day. And you can do this for multiple cappers. Do it for all of us and have a fantastic September, October, and into November as well. WagerTalk.com, once again, 60 days for just $378. Fantastic value, the best I've seen so far this year. Tony Finn, let's look at this Western Conference Finals. Game 4, Lakers Nuggets. Now, we all know the Nuggets can easily be up 2-1. They were a shot away from winning game 2. As we talked about yesterday, though, Teddy and I kind of talked about at the Open, game 3 would have probably played out a little differently, though, had the Lakers lost game 2. Now they have lost game 3, Tony. How do you handicap this one coming in? The best team in the league remaining, according to the odds makers, actually has a lower point spread off a loss now than they did off a win. So it's game 4, Lakers by 6.
I'm not going to talk much about this because I'll start rambling and I'll give you a bunch of numbers and a bunch of situations, scenarios, some underlying peripherals, and all of it really will get it'll be white noise. The truth is, if you like Denver, and I don't have the exact numbers, but so I know the smart guys are good, and this is what it is. When Denver's a dog and they cover, for the most part, they've won. I think the Lakers, when they are a favorite of 6 or more, when they've covered or when they've won, they've covered what, 8 of 10 of these in the bubble. With that number, I'm just going to say 9. There you go. If you like Denver, then 9. not only should you play a little bit of the +6, you should probably play a little bit of the money line. You should leak a little over that because you're going to get paid. And if you like the Lakers here, then you're going to like the win more than 6. Then I'm going to guess, at least make a suggestion that you're over or positive on your props with the Lakers. In my feeling about this series is, as much as I trust LeBron to take games into his own hands and in certain situations make good decisions, I'm telling you that I watched this last game 3 times, and I did it fast and jumped around. But what I see is a Denver team that you can't shake. You can't. Not only can you not shake them, I think they've really figured out how they can at least keep themselves in this game until the end, and especially if they get a lead. They're not a team other than that. Listen, other than I spoke to that stretch where they looked completely like they were like someone had slipped them a Mickey or a Quaalude or 5 Quaaludes for a period of time where they just here LA, here's the ball, and they go on that 20-2 run, whatever it was. It seems to me that they held that, they still were able to shake anything the Lakers bring at them in the fourth quarter. I like them. At this point in time, I have much more respect for this team, for Malone, for Murray. I still don't think Murray's that guy that all of a sudden breaks out. Tyler, go back to what we were just talking about. Hero probably is. I've said this to a guy this morning. He said, how does a 20-year-old do that, what he did last night? I said, listen, if you don't do what he did at 20, if you're not a star at 20 in the NBA, you're never going to be a star. It's just the bottom line. I mean, you're a superstar. So my take going into tonight is that if you're like me and you like Denver, you got to get Denver plus the points here and a little bit of the money line. And I'm not saying Lakers don't win, and I'm going against what I told you, and that is the Lakers win. They typically cover, right? Something about this team, something about this Denver team at this point forward, that I think these games are close, and I don't think they go away no matter what the score is.
Yeah, and I think in general, Teddy, NBA, NFL, if you like any medium-sized underdog, 7 or less, you probably should be playing some of it on the money line long term. I know in the NFL, if it's less than a touchdown, the majority of those teams that cover win outright. And that's why I said last week when I had 2 straight-up winners that didn't cover is very unusual, going 3-0, but just 1-2 against the spread in the NFL. Nuggets right now, guys, about 6.5 point dog. This line has gone up to 6.5 in a lot of locations from 6. So if you like the Lakers, you play -6 now. If you like Denver, you definitely make sure you get at least a 6.5 because it does not look like this line is going down to 5.5 by this evening. Money line is around. It varies. Once again, we talk about shopping around. It's anywhere from -240 to -270 on the Lakers. It's anywhere from 200 to +220 on the Nuggets. So we'll say 250, 210 for the consensus. Teddy, your thoughts on the side total, how to play this game?
So I'm not playing this game. There's not a chance. The line could move 2 points. The total can move 2 points, and I'm still not interested. I'll tell you why. Let's start with the Denver side of the equation. All right. There have been 2 teams in the playoffs that have been mispriced from day one of the postseason, Miami and Denver. Throughout the game ones, the Nuggets have not played well in game 1. They seem to get better as the series progresses. So I threw out the game ones. In the postseason, catching +2.5 or higher, not counting the game ones, Denver is 10-1 ATS. They lost by 11. The one game against the Clips, I think it was game 3 or game 4, whichever one it was. Every other time they've covered. And again, there are parameters. You have to throw out the game ones. And it's only when Denver's been a dog. But they've been really good in that role. And, of course, they lost the opener to the Lakers. And then come back. The last 2 games have been highly competitive. So the Nuggets are clearly, when you look at this 10-1 ATS run in this point spread range, they're mispriced. And the markets aren't going to suddenly violently change their power rating on Denver, and they'll have the line be 4. If we look at this series right now and say, what should the line have been from the get-go? It's probably 3. None of us, if you look at our power rating, say, oh, yeah, the Lakers are clearly 6.5 points better than Denver on a neutral floor. Not a chance. So from a value standpoint in this series, I can only take the Nuggets. And I don't want Denver in this game. I don't want the Lakers off a bad loss. I don't want the Lakers where they haven't played well in either of the last 2 games. I don't want the Lakers when they are paying full attention. I would bet against the Lakers when they're paying full attention. I do want to mention something that Tony Finn was talking about, Moneyline. And yes, sprinkling something on the Moneyline with any single-digit dog that I play, I sprinkle something on the Moneyline. A lot of times, it's 1/10 of a unit. And we've already seen the Nuggets lose 3 different times during this 10-1 ATS run where they were close enough to cover the spread but didn't win the game outright. That wouldn't surprise me tonight.
Yeah, it's a good point, Teddy, because the Nuggets have been kind of thorn in the side for people taking that strategy, although there's no doubt in my mind long-term you win more by doing that strategy because the majority of the time, if you're handicapping the game right, you like a medium price underdog, they have a very good chance to win the game outright. Because, what else are you playing them for? You're hoping that they lose by 6 or less? That's a small window to try to catch. The analogy I use is playing these big underdogs now in like college football and stuff, which I do less than ever because you're just hoping they cover because they have usually they think they have no chance to win. Am I hoping they're going to get a late backdoor cover? I don't like to play that way. I usually pass those type of games. So yeah, if you like the Nuggets tonight, you got to think they have a chance to win. And Teddy, I think I put it up wrong. 10-1 is an underdog, correct?
Yeah, underdog of plus 2.5 or higher.
2.5 or more. Okay, I'll update.
And that's excluding the game ones. Yeah.
Right, because they were favored against Utah, I think, in 2 and 3 for early on in that Utah series, so they reversed it. The Nuggets were a slight favorite. Ski, you're the LA man, you're the Laker man. What are your thoughts on your Lakers? You're heading into Game 4. I think Teddy brought up a good point. When focused, you don't want to get in front of the Lakers. Coming off the loss, you would think they would be focused here, Ski.
I agree, and I think Tony made a good point too as well. If you like the Nuggets, you probably like them to win. But if you like the Lakers, when they're winning these games, they're covering. They're winning by margin. So I understand how you can say the value has been on Denver, but I agree with Teddy. The Lakers are going to be focused in this game. You see LeBron on the bench shaking his head. Vogel, he says they need to be more aggressive. They need to be more physical. They're sending, tape into the league trying to get LeBron more free throws. Vogel said that the Lakers are a lot better. The offense is a lot better when they attack the paint and when they stop settling for 3-pointers. I think LeBron was 11 for 14 in the paint. Anthony Davis, I don't think he missed in the paint. I think you see a much sharper, much better Laker team here today. They said that they want to be aggressive on defense. They want to get out and run. This kind of seems like a situation we've seen before where not one, not two, or maybe 2 point guards were feeling themselves and dancing on the Lakers, and Lakers come back and make a judgment.
Yeah, and Rob, we had a official referee alert on Twitter last night from you. What's your take on the referees?
I was going to ask you that. We have James Capers, lead official tonight. We have David Guthrie and Rodney Mott. Probably neutral guys. All veteran guys qualified to do this game, but I don't know their stance towards Nugget players or Laker players. So if there is one, let us know, please. Steve, for my little section here, I'll take a look at what's going on for those who bet first halves. And these two teams, throughout the playoffs, they've played 30 combined games. In those 30 combined games this year in the playoffs, the over is 21-9, 70% over first half. I know, when the Lakers get out quick, they get out quick. Denver's generally gotten out quick. The second half tends to slow down, the first half winner has become the second half loser against the spread wise 2 out of 3 times in this particular series. The LA Lakers last 5 first halves have all been decided by double digits. So they're not even close at halftime, the last 5 games. The 3 in this series have been 10-point margin, 10-point margin, 11-point margin. So we're getting big wins in the first half along with overs. Does something give there tonight? I'm not sure, but those are awfully strong trends to contend with. In this particular series, if you go through all 3 games, only once has a team shot less for the game than 47.3% from the field. 47.3 is a good number, guys, in the NBA overall. And to have, in 3 games, 5 times, 5 teams up and over that, and only once a 44% effort put up by the Lakers, the shooting's been really good here. Is it good shooting? Is it poor defense? But Ski said it a little bit, and we said it yesterday. As these series go on, they tend to tighten up. And I know all these things point toward over. But I'm not so sure. Last game I thought, just a gut feeling, that the LA Lakers would come with a real good defensive effort. Maybe now, after what they've seen, is the time where they put forth that defensive effort. You can contradict that by saying Jamal Murray told us after the last game that Denver has to run. Ski just telling us that LA would like to push. Doesn't necessarily it makes it over the total, but if you're going to compare the number that you're dealing with tonight, and Steve, again, when we talk about overs, we've said it before that over-under are nice to say, but let's apply it to the number that's being given here. And if you use 214.5 as the number, you don't come out with as many overs as what I just said before. So I think maybe, my gut feeling is maybe this tightens up a little bit here tonight and becomes more of a do or die type game for both teams where we see a little more defense.
And once again, that's some good advice from Rob Vino. He is the number 1 all-time totals handicapper in all sports combined ever at WagerTalk. Just keep that in mind when he's giving you over-under advice here on this show or any show. Rob also 241% return on investment the past 12 months for his clients. That's a little bit better than the stock market's done for those of you out there like to invest. That's why I keep using the word invest, because this is a form of investment. Once again, it's fantastic special. I want to pop the banner up there again. Let me find it right here. $378 for the next 2 months of all sports from each and all of us. Mix and match. Get multiple cappers. You can basically get 2 for the price of 1 with this deal and be locked in for the next 2 months. Football, baseball, basketball, hockey, NASCAR, golf, MMA. Lots of different sports available from a lot of different cappers at WagerTalk.com. Also, select cappers at SportsMemo.com. And Rob, just to get back to your point about the total, and I'll throw it to you, Tony, to get your thoughts on the total more here. High shooting percentages, but of course, as we all know, the key to handicapping over-unders is pace of play.
Yes.
Denver, Tony, it's taken 73 and 74 field goal attempts their last 2 games, which is a very slow pace. Now, granted, they've been making a lot of shots, so you're going to have less shots when they're going in and less misses. But I do find it interesting that the line has come down on the over-under after 2 of the 3 going over, 220 and 240 in a couple of those games. And we have a lower total for the second time they've bumped it down after an over like they did in game 2, Tony.
Yeah, I still believe, and I'll speak to it. And that is if you like Denver, if you like the Lakers, you're supposed to like the under. Yeah, that again, the Lakers are supposed to be better defensively. Vogel can tell us all he wants about how this offense is supposed to be better, but the Lakers score a lot of their points off being very good defensively. And again, I've said it last week on the show. I'll say it again. Nobody's better in transition than the King. He's big, he's physical, he's not afraid to go to the rim. He doesn't care who's in front of him. And if you are in front of him, Katie, I feel badly for you because it's not going to feel good when you do get run over. And that's really they need some contributions from the bench. They don't need a whole lot. They just need to defend. And if I still will tell you that I would lean to the under in this game because if this thing plays out, my fear is, guys, and you'll comment on this. My fear is this, that these officials are going to start calling this thing tighter as opposed to letting them play. I don't know what it is. I just have this feeling watching these guys. you know more about these officials. It's one thing in the NBA I don't pay a whole lot of attention to. There are a few, the Fosters. There's a few officials that we know of because they've made themselves known for one reason or another. And I still like the under in this series, which is different than what I feel about the Miami series.
Teddy, your thoughts? I know you said if the total moved a couple points, you still wouldn't be interested. But what are your thoughts overall that the games 2 and 4 have had lower totals than games 1 and 3, which both soared over the total? Is that because the odds makers are looking at what the sharps are looking at as far as pace of play and other things?
So what Rob Vino said made perfect sense to me. You know, when you're talking about the shooting percentages have been higher early in the series than perhaps we can expect to see down the stretch of the series. And it's not unusual or unique to see series bog down a little bit as we get to games 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, should this series go that far. So it's certainly not unusual. If I had to make a bet on the total, I would lean under. But you know, you talk about the issues with the refs, and you try not to let that stuff get in your head. I try not to let that stuff get in my head too much. But especially with Miami taking a 3-1 series lead, the NBA has a vested interest in the Lakers surviving and advancing this series. And how that plays out on the floor is something of a concern for me. Does it play out with Denver not getting any foul calls on the one end, or does it play out with them getting a bunch of foul calls on the other end? That discrepancy makes a big difference, because we talk about pace as being the most important factor in NBA totals. It's one of the 2 most important factors in NBA totals. The other,
fouls,
how many free throw attempts you get.
That's right.
And if you have a game with 70 free throw attempts, you're trying to cash an under, you're not loving it. And if you have a game with 30 free throw attempts and you're trying to cash an over, you're not loving that either. So, you know, if you get a sense early on that the refs are swallowing or blowing their whistles, maybe you can get an edge in-game on this total. But pre-tip-off, I don't have a strong take.
To speak real quickly, Teddy's right. Not only I read a couple articles, it's been years ago, where a guy wrote about fouls in the NBA. And not only do fouls obviously create more scoring opportunities, he did some algorithms where when you're shooting free throws, the clock's not running. So it not only it's just exponential, should I say, what fouls do for a total.
And if you guys recall, when the one known official who was corrupt, Donahue, was fixing games, he was betting overs. And that was the way they were controlling that, because, as you said, you get more fouls. It's the one thing you can control as an official. Ski, you know, the more these guys are talking about sides, totals, I think if the Lakers come out focused, wouldn't you agree that probably correlates to the under? Because first of all, there's going to be more defense, and second of all, they might have a double-digit lead where there would be less fouling down the stretch. I mean, I'm starting to think Lakers under is a little more correlated than anything, maybe, Ski.
Yeah, it's been that way. Lakers are a defensive team, and as Tony said, that's where the offense gets started. When we're playing good defense, we get out and we run and we score easy baskets. I say we because you guys know I'm a Laker fan.
You're wearing the jersey. You might get a game tonight. If they let you in the bubble, you might.
Ball boy.
But
you're going to sneak him into the bubble, and he has a chance.
On the total, I think Rob talked a lot about good cases for the over, but I agree with what he was saying towards the under as well. If you like the over, I think you definitely like it in the first half, because the second half, the overs went to die. And I just think, like, when I'm talking about these adjustments that need to be made, what I'm thinking is going to happen, I mean, Lakers could come out and run that zone again. They ran a zone, and Denver had 6 straight turnovers. Or we can see, like, how they did the previous series. They throw a hard double team at Jamal Murray, get the ball out of his hand. You can see a lot of different adjustments, and I just think it results in less points. So I'll lean on that under in this one. And I would ask you guys, everybody, I mean, it doesn't really sound like, even if you think the Nuggets are going to cover, it doesn't really sound like anybody here thinks the Nuggets are going to win this game. Do you think if the Lakers win this game that they let up next game? Like we said, that you don't want the Lakers off of a loss, you don't want them when they're focused. Do you think that they won't be focused in the next game? Because if you don't, the Lakers in 5 is plus 100 even money.
Yeah, I mean, once again, Ski, that goes back to what we said in the last series, with the Clippers. The Lakers got done early. We thought the Clippers would finish things off, and would they have a 16-point Game 6 clinching halftime lead. And I recall because I was on them once again in that game, and I'll never forget that. It was looking pretty good. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, also with the Heat up 3-1, you can bring in that if the Heat clinch on Friday, if they finish them off. Both teams kind of have the same layoff no matter what because the finals are set. But Rob, I'll throw it to you first. I mean, any thoughts on that and just your closing thoughts on this series from a side or total perspective?
Yeah, to what Ski just said, I think my personal opinion would be I'd probably weigh Denver's resilience more than I would a Lakers letdown. I just think Denver's shown us an ability to come back and never, ever, ever lay down. So I'd probably put a little more weight in that if they were to lose tonight than I would that the Lakers maybe come out a little flat. They could, but I mean, if I were holding scales up, I would probably tip the scales a little more towards Denver resilience. I'm going to give you guys a couple of numbers because yesterday I went through and Tony and Teddy both hit on how important free throws are. Okay, so yesterday we went through the Miami-Boston series and I gave you guys numbers on how many points in the first 3 games of that series were contributed through 3-pointers and through free throws. And that total was 118 in that series, right? And when you have 118 and then you're looking at, I think at the time we were looking at a total of 212, you only need 94 other points to find your way to that total. It's a lot different here. That number of points is not being contributed by the Lakers and Denver. So the real good shooting percentages have helped these things go over because if you add up free throw points per game and 3-pointer points per game, you come up with 79. That's almost 40 points less than what Miami and Boston are getting out of the 3-point arc and out of the free throw line. So if shooting goes sideways by a couple of percentage points, Steve, say you go from 47 to 45, it makes a huge difference here. At 214.5, if you're only getting 79 from the free throw line and from the 3-point line, then you're looking for a whole batch coming from the other area, 124.5 or 125 to be exact. So that's a lot from 2-point range for me. That would have to be sheer great shooting once again, maybe layups at the rim. 2-pointers come in a variety of ways. But still, it just seems like, and the free throw attempts have gone down in this series. Now, when I looked at that, the one thing I thought of right away was Billy Donovan saying, we want to play Houston without fouling. The first game in this series, which we pretty much as a tandem, as a team, thought would be played a little looser, a little more free. That's the way it worked out. They shot 65 free throws in that game. Since then, the last 2 games, 52 and 51. Is that a concerted effort on each side to try not to foul as much, or is that just a result of game 1 being free and loose? I'm not sure, but it's a much lower number in points produced in those 2 areas in this series than it is in the Boston-Miami series.
Yeah, and Rob, one thing about 2-pointers is, you can never predict how many free throws for the most part. You can't predict when teams are going to be hot or cold from 3-point range. I think that's the big variable in basketball nowadays, college and pro. It's kind of like predicting turnovers in the NFL. You can kind of predict interceptions, fumbles are random. 2-pointers, yes, you can't predict shooting percentage, but they're more makeable shots. So if a team can dominate down low, it's a more known quantity. So I do like to look at the 2 or 3-point breakdown when I'm handicapping sides and totals to try to find some hidden edges. We got one question in the comments here I want to get to before we move on to some maybe player props. So guys, start looking at some play-on-play against guys for me here. Somebody asked best site for Vegas odds and Vegas books. I want to remind everybody that WagerTalk does have their beta odds screen, which they're working on now, and it's still free. This is a live odds service. It's normally a premium paid service. It's free right now, and that's the link, wt.buzz/beta odds. And you get live sides and totals from Vegas books and also some offshores. I use it daily, and it's a great site to get some free odds and information. Lots of other ones out there, but I'd recommend the WagerTalk one. It's accurate and it's new, and it's good stuff. And it's just another free handicapping arsenal. And, of course, free plays from all of us throughout the week, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, etc. at WagerTalk and Sportsmemo, and also best bets tonight from all of us at WagerTalk.com. Teddy's also on SportsMemo.com. The last 5 minutes or so, guys, let's go around the horn, get some play-on-play against guys. Tony Finn, any under the radar guys tonight? I mean, LA, it's pretty much LeBron and Davis. I mean, it really is that simple for me. Any other guys you're looking at? I know Rondo sometimes we talk about, but they haven't even had a lot of props on him recently.
Every time I bring somebody up, you tell me they're not listed.
I know.
Every time I bring somebody up.
Bring someone up and I'll let you know.
Wilt. Jerry West, I'll take under. Let me see. If I'm going to look, my first thought, and that is always I want to know what they have on Jokic. I want to know where he is the guy that 30 points from the big there makes it a game. What's the total day? What are the odds makers getting?
You know what's interesting about that, Tony? I was looking at a show we did a few weeks ago, and I had a banner saved that I'd flashed up here, and I don't remember exactly which game, but Jokic was 18.5 over under like back in the last series. He's now 23.5. So that's how far he's come in just the last couple of weeks. But I saw that the other day going through some of the old banners I'd used for shows. We had him at 18.5 a few weeks ago. So he's really come on strong. 23.5. This is over under points tonight.
Yeah, I'm telling you that he's going to be the focal point, and unless LA does something different, I think he gets 23. I mean, now is that enough? It's not enough. Yeah, Murray's got to perform too, and
Murray's 25.5 by the way.
Got to be more than that, yeah. But I'll take the over on Jokic if anybody wants the under 18.5.
Oh, well, 3 weeks ago.
I was gonna jump on it until the end.
Yeah. He gave you the time machine line from 3 weeks ago. Yeah, so we got Jokic 23.5, Murray 25.5 for the Nuggets, and then for the big two of the Lakers, of course, we're looking at LeBron James 27.5, Anthony Davis around 28.5, 28. Teddy, any thoughts on those guys or anybody else?
So the one that stands out to me for today would be Jamal Murray under
25.5. Yeah.
Again, he's gone under that 2 or 3 in this series. He only exceeded 25. I guess he did get there 3 times. In the last series, he had 126 and 127. But I would anticipate the Lakers' defensive adjustments in their game plan tonight is going to be about stopping Jamal Murray. And if there's one bet that I'd make in this game, it'd probably be Murray under.
And it's interesting, Teddy. He was 24.5 in the last game or 2 games ago. He got down to lows 23.5 in the last series when he underperformed at 24.5, and now he's 25.5. So you're actually getting a little bit of adjusted line value if you want to look at long term, as opposed to Jokic, who I mentioned is 5 points higher, almost 15-20% higher than he was a few weeks ago. So Teddy likes under 25.5. Murray, what are your thoughts on that, Tony?
No, I do agree. And I wanted to say to the numbers, the guy that seems to spend his entire life in front of a box score and an algorithm machine or whatever he's using, that would be Rob. Rob, I think I mentioned something about Murray a week or so ago that when he takes a certain amount of 3-pointers, there's a correlation to the wins for Denver's too. And I haven't looked at it since then, but I believe if he takes 8 or more shots from 3-point land, Denver had one. He'd averaged 23 or 24 points. Had he or more than that even, I'm wrong, 30 points. If he had taken less than 8 shots, he'd averaged 18 points in those games. I'll look at that tonight, but if you have a chance, you look at that. I think you'll find that correlation. The correlation is that if Murray's taking shots, and it had nothing to do with how many of them he made. It just had to do with his mindset. And if he's taking more than 8 shots, he was averaging almost 30. Less, it was 18. So we'll see.
Yeah, Rob, what are your thoughts on Murray in general?
Well, I mean, the numbers from last game would back up exactly what Tony said. Jamal Murray took 8 3-pointers. He scored 28 points. Remember, guys, he gets over that total last game with 2. I won't use hyperbole and say incredible, but those were pretty good 3-point shots he hit in the last minute of that game. The last one was almost, bordering on ridiculous. So when he's feeling it, and there's no question he can get up and over. But, I don't want to run through Ski here because we skipped past Ski to come to me, but let me just throw this out there real quick. That combination of Jokic and Jamal Murray, last game, they go 19 of 31. They shoot over 61% as a tandem, and they score 50 points. So the Lakers, Jokic went wild in the first quarter, guys. Jokic was going absolutely crazy, and then it kind of stalled out for him the rest of the game. The Lakers did a pretty good job with him the final 3 quarters. But if anybody saw 26 points from Jeremy Grant coming, raise your hand. and let me know, because 7 of 11 and 10 from 12 from the free throw line, he was the third piece to help those two guys out. LeBron and AD didn't get any help last game. So we'll see if one of their reserves comes to the forefront here to help them. I won't ask you about their props, Steve, because we know DraftKings lists 4 players and that's it. But other sites may have some of these names, and I'd be looking for one of these guys, whether it be Caldwell Pope or Green or Kuzma, who Ski said the team needs real bad in our last show. Somebody's got to step up and help those other two guys. I don't think you're going to get 26 out of Jeremy Grant again tonight.
Well, Rob, they go pretty deep on the player points. We got about 6 or 7 guys from each team. So like Danny Green's 7.5. Who are some other ones you're looking at? Kuzma's 10.5, by the way. Who else are you looking at? Millsap, 8.5. I mean, they're pretty deep actually on the points.
Yeah, and one more guy, and he got only 10 minutes last game, but Morris had been shooting threes like crazy. I forget what his percentage is.
7.5
last few
points.
games, but
7.5 for Morris.
I think, one of those reserves has to step up, Steve. You could take your shot with a couple of those guys, but, if it was me and I don't play props, I would think Morris could get to 8 points just because of how good his three-point shooting has been. But boy, oh boy, I hope Frank Vogel gives him more than 10.5 minutes to do so. And I would think that the next choice would probably be Kyle Kuzma, because he's supposed to be the third scorer. He's got to be the third scorer to help the other two out. So I'd probably be there with him.
Yeah, Ski. Last but not least, I actually wanted to say Ski last because he's our prop guy in general, and he's also our Laker guy. So close us out here on your prop thoughts, some stuff that these guys mentioned. They're kind of selling me on the Murray under 25.5. As Teddy said, he's going under in a lot of games, and as Rob said, he got to 28 with some – 8 made threes, and he still barely gets over by a basket. So what are your thoughts on Murray under 25.5, Ski, and your other prop thoughts?
Well, I'm thinking about what adjustments are going to be made. And as I'm saying that, we were riding the LeBron assist and Rondo assist, and they've now upped them by both like 2 points. So what adjustments are going to be made in this game? I think that they're going to double team Jamal Murray, or they're going to blitz him, get the ball out of his hand. So I think that the under Murray prop is a good look. And I think Jokic got all those points because they didn't make the adjustment from the previous game to put a bigger body on him. They played small, and he was eating it up. And I think they make that adjustment, so I could understand Jokic under as well. The way that I would look, the Lakers, Frank Vogel said that they're better when they attack the paint, when they're not settling for jump shots. That's when the offense is best. So I'm looking for Anthony Davis under his 3-point total. I'm sure it went down. It was 1.5. It's probably 1. LeBron James under his 3-point total. His is 2.5.
2.5 to the well. 2.5 to the under.
And then I'm gonna look for LeBron James over 27.5 points, because whenever he's nobody to guard him, as long as he's aggressive attacking the paint, he can score as much as he wants. And I like Anthony Davis rebounds over.
Yeah, Davis is under 1.5, minus 185 for threes, and it's not even available at DraftKings. But LeBron is 2.5 under, a little less juice on the threes.
We talked about Anthony Davis only having, or I don't know if we did, but it was on my mind since the last game was played, him having 2 rebounds. So he said he has to be better. I'm expecting him to have 10 rebounds tonight.
What about the triple-double prop? Then you would like that, I guess. I'm actually not seeing it available at DraftKings. LeBron, a triple-double. I'm sorry, that's a triple-double. Let's go to the double-doubles. I was going to say Anthony Davis is a little bit minus 120 on a double-double, Ski. That's not bad. Yes, LeBron's minus 200. So you'd obviously like Davis better, I guess, in the double-double, huh?
Yes, Anthony Davis.
So minus 121 on a double-double for Anthony Davis. Tony, you want the other side of that? I would agree with the double-double there.
Of course I do.
Let me rephrase the question. I know you want the other side, but would you disagree with it?
No, I wouldn't. Yeah. But I will. I got to get even from getting taken advantage of yesterday. So yeah, I'm in.
Well, are there any that you do disagree with? Ski likes Anthony Davis and LeBron both under 2.5, and Anthony Davis under 1.5 with a lot of juice under threes.
I tell you tonight. I am telling you tonight in this game, I like south of the number in almost everything. I just have this, and again, it comes back to last game and what happened. Unless you repeat that scenario where Jokic is just stupid, crazy, and hitting everything early on, and they get that lead, forcing the Lakers to do some things that they really don't want to do, and you get the shots that you mentioned, Murray making late. Then I still like under in this, and I like south of the total in all the props.
Yeah, and I was going to say they are somewhat correlated to the under. Obviously, you like the under, you like more rebounds, you like less points scored, and we've kind of been leaning that way on most of these props. So we're going to leave it at that. We definitely we're pretty much a consensus viewers for Jamal Murray under 25.5 points. So we'll use that as an in-show.
Get the over fast.
Exactly. So the kiss of death is in full effect on that one. And I'm with Ski on the Anthony Davis double-double at -120. I think his rebounds will show up tonight, especially if the shots are being missed, and that correlates once again to Murray under, the game under, some other things we've been talking about. A great show, guys. Teddy had to jump in another show here in a few minutes, but we will all be back tomorrow on Friday, same time, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Eastern, live on Friday for Game 5, Celtics and Heat. And we'll also take an advanced look at Game 5 of Lakers and Nuggets as well, because we won't have a weekend show. So back tomorrow on Friday, same time, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, right here on WagerTalk TV. And don't forget, $378 for 60 days of all sports at WagerTalk.com. Good luck tonight. We got to get out here before Tony Finn says something silly and gets us kicked off